Hi, my name's Laura, and I'm an addict. I'm addicted to my smartphone. When most people think of addiction, they think of drugs, alcohol, gambling, or something illegal. But you can also be addicted to certain activities as well as substances, of course. I'm addicted to my smartphone. I don't want to admit to it, but I am. It's affected my mental health, my physical health, as well as my social health. I realized recently that I've lost a lot of my vision, and I've used my smartphone kind of as a crutch to be able to see certain things, have my phone read to me, and kind of use it as an excuse to use it all the time. I'm not saying that using your smartphone as a tool is a bad thing. I'm just saying it for myself, it turned into a real addiction. For example, recently I noticed that my on-screen time was averaging about 8.5 hours. So essentially, I was using my smartphone like a job. Now, to preface that, I am currently not working due to medical reasons, being my eyes and my mental health. And on this journey, I'm trying to improve my mental health, and I noticed that one of the main factors of my mental health is in fact my smartphone and social media addiction. So on this journey, I decided for 2024 to focus on reducing my smartphone usage by switching to a dumb phone. Now, using a dumb phone, easy. Buy a dumb phone, put your SIM card in it, and you're on your way. But in fact, when I jumped down the rabbit hole of using dumb phones, I realized that there are different kinds of dumb phones. First, you have the not so dumb phone. So this dumb phone could be a phone that you can connect to the internet and use minimum apps like WhatsApp or certain messaging apps. Then there are the obsolete dumb phones. These are the phones that you have lying around in your drawer that might still connect to your service provider, but you can't do much else with it. And lastly, you have the phones that are designed to be dumb phones. Now, when created, these phones were decidedly dumbed down to not access certain applications, internet, or anything to distract you. Now, on my journey, I went through all of these different types of dumb phones. First, I realized that my addiction was so strong that I needed to wean myself off of certain phone usages. I decided that, I must have certain apps such as WhatsApp so that way I can stay connected to my friends and family. So my first switch was to the dumb phone, quote unquote, smarter dumb phone, the Nokia 6300 4G. So if you have a service provider that only has 4G, for example, you might be limited to dumb phones like this. You can remove applications that you don't want to be distracted by, but I noticed myself, I would go searching for certain applications to make my phone very similar to my smartphone, and in the end, it wasn't really helping me. I found myself finding podcast apps, still trying to watch YouTube, trying to scroll through the internet browser for certain other applications like Reddit. I also like this phone because you can use an external micro SD card, which I put all of my music on and I added it to the phone. The phone also comes with a headphone jack, so you can just plug it in and go, and you have your MP3 player as well as your phone. This was great, but again, I was distracted and I was still using my phone for games, any kind of news, and I noticed that I really had an addiction and I couldn't even put this phone down. So next, I decided to jump on the nostalgia dumb phone journey. I rediscovered my love of Blackberries, especially after losing my vision. I found the physical keyboards quite reassuring. So I was able to type and I felt I had more feedback. I switched to the Blackberry Torch as my primary device. And this was great because the phone is essentially obsolete. So I can't access, update, or use applications. But I found myself again finding reasons to try to connect to the internet. I was spending obscene amount of times on forums such as Crackberry and trying to find workarounds or loopholes on how to make this once obsolete smartphone, again, a usable dumb smartphone. It wasn't helping my addiction. So I figured I wasn't going far enough back with my nostalgia to try to stay away from the internet. So I went back to 2006 when I remembered using my Motorala Razr. Now this phone is great. It does the essential functions, text and calling, and luckily I have a service provider which still connects to 2G, which enables me to use some dumb phones that others may not be able to use. But unfortunately, since I've lost my vision greatly since 2006, this phone is not accessible. I can't even see the keys because they are like a reflective silver. The backlight, I can't see anything. So it made even typing a phone number quite useless to me. As far as modifying the theme to make it a dark theme, not possible. So I deemed this no-go because I couldn't make it accessible enough to make a basic phone call. So at this point, I was ready to give up. I'm just thinking I'm going to have to be addicted to my smartphone forever. I'm never going to find something that is dumb enough and accessible at the same time. Then I came across a phone called Punkt. Now I have the Punkt MP01 here. There's a second version of this phone which has more features such as a messaging app called Pigeon, which is another app to connect to Signal. I went with the MP01 because it has absolutely nothing as far as additional applications. It has calling, texting, reminders, alarms, and a calendar that you can't add anything to. You can just look at the dates. So the less functionality, the better for me. So that's why I chose this phone. Since accessibility is a major factor for me, I wanted a phone with physical keys as well as a dark theme. And as you can see, these keys are backlit, which is great. So I can use it in the dark and I can see the contrast of the keys a bit better. You can also see on the screen that it is a dark mode by default and you can't change this, which is great for me because I can scroll through, I can access my menus, and it even zooms in on the menus that you have selected, which makes it quite simple to use. Now, I've only been using this phone for a week and I noticed a lot of changes. I still have my smartphone because, as you know, you can't live in this world without certain applications to access your bank, to verify certain things, access your medical records, and things like this. So I have my smartphone, but I'm kind of using it like a computer where I can only access it certain times of the day. Usually 1 hour a day if I can. As far as my calls and texts, this phone is using 2G, which enables me to make my calls and texts no problem. Doesn't have internet access, no games, nothing to distract me. So when I find that I'm bored, I'm picking up this phone and I'm not even touching it because it's actually more boring than being bored, which is exactly what I'm looking for. That's why I really like this phone and I'm going to continue using it with my digital minimalism journey.